Well, good afternoon as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful afternoon of, I guess it's Wednesday afternoon, August 2nd, year 2023. Here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty and Francis Ann, and of course, the likes of you out there. Make it your business to enhance and fortify the concept of public access as it should be, and as it should be, and as reality sees fit. That when you speak of the liberty, the freedom, the goodwill, the straightforwardness of availability. A lot of people have chances to express themselves in many places in the world, but they don't happen to be able to find a stage upon which they can stand, upon which they can lecture, upon which they can preach, upon which they can tell their story. Yeah, and I guess in our country, it works in ways that it's nothing less than impressive. Today, I'm wearing my precious LTV Studios T-shirt, feeling belonged, and we are here also getting ready to conclude the hanging of the new show for the month of August, with artists such as Dennis Lawrence, the great Dennis Lawrence, whom I admire, Aurelio Torres, whom I admire also. We got Michael McDowell, whom I admired, and Steve Rahm, whom I admired and happens to be my mentor, Chris Lecoeur, whom I admired from the Lecoeur Gallery in Montauk, a wonderful young artist slash gallery owner, and nothing less than impressive. And we have Eric Ernst has one piece submitted to this show, whom I admired and know for many, many years. I know Eric Ernst since 1983. And we have Jody Gambino, a musician, poet, and painter. We'll have also a large scale piece here. And John Pomanovsky from Montauk, showing his prints here, large scale prints, whom I admired. Uh, and uh, so what else? The show is almost up and running. I mean, I guess I hung about 80% of it, but if you come to LTV, you'll get an idea of how things are. And we're going to have the opening Saturday, August 12th, 4 to 7. And of course, you're all welcome. And we're going to continue full force in the sense of displaying art of local artists, as we believe that anything that takes place in public access, especially our station LTV out of Wainscott, it must be um, hand in hand with the concept of some kind of artistic happening. Sometimes, some kinds of some kind of an artistic execution, and that's something that makes me happy. Now, I usually don't drink Coke, but now, because I couldn't find my bottle of water, I'm going to just indulge. Insane. So sweet and bubbly. But if you don't drink Coke, as I don't, and you get to drink Coke, suddenly you appreciate it very much and you say, okay, whoa, whoa. Anyway, of course, and I'm with my hands knocked here, I'm ready for my, you know, along the years, I talk about the concept that leads us into the into the gates of some kind of a personal understanding of what it is that's important to you, for you. What is it that it's important about the process that's taking place that leads you to create that creation that you want, um, depending the medium. So I know a lot of people that actually now begin to acquire knowledge in more than one medium, and therefore they take advantage of the advantage to cross implement and to really start telling a bigger story than the one that finds place in our hearts and in our minds. Of course, a long time ago already, I realized it doesn't matter what the size of the story is, or how dramatic or quiet it is. It's still, nevertheless, an interesting story. As much as almost every story is worthy of telling and worthy of announcing, worthy of declaring, and especially if you watch me along the years, you know that my emphasis is about the benefits uh, for ourselves as the creators of that engagement, directly and indirectly, with the arts, and then of course that community that you live in. And if you start, digging into the heart of the matter and understanding more and more what it is that what's the nature of that face that's being revealed every day a little more, and how it is that you can recognize things and quickly enough name it, and also realize quickly enough also that you named it correctly, and and then quickly enough you realize that how important it is to be able to name it, and b name it correctly. The passage into the first opening that either you found open and inviting, and plunged in and say, let's engage, let's see what's the give and take here, or the one that you yourself kind of put it in place, and made it available for you, and which makes it more interesting because obviously there's a level of camaraderie, and maybe even kind of forgiveness in place, where you don't fear a scenario where suddenly you find yourself judged harshly, or criticized enormously, or maybe unbalancedly and unfairly. And but for the most part, when I do engage with other artists, I realize that most of them really uh, are in a safer place than they used to be, especially when it comes to criticism. A lot of times I would get people. I would say I'm actually very fortunate because people love my work, and that makes me happy because I love my work also. They love my paintings, and that makes me happy because I love my paintings also. And the paintings that they see and enjoy and love is the paintings that I allowed uh, to embark on its own journey to finally reach the audience that feel the way they do about it. A lot of criticism that I get would be, or used to be, not that much any longer, the kind of criticism so that you can actually just say, so what, so then what, so then, so mm, so what, so then what then, um to take the creation and to have it uh, uh, be surrendering in your hands, and kind of making the material feel secured and safe in the hands of a person like yourselves, that projects uh, decency and willingness to work hard, and a proof on the surface that indeed hard work has been volunteered and released, and then the joy of every morning that I wake up, and when I kind of say, okay, let me go back to the studio just for a second and see what took place last night, And for real, a lot of people that when they used to tell me about their journey the night before, and the following morning they're going to check in because they don't quite understand the progress or the beauty or the uniqueness or the enormity of the volume of work uh, that was performed. And therefore, so for me, in the morning I go down and I say, oh, that was a very successful night, I guess. And you're so happy about where you stand facing your work. And so, you kind of also just feel good about yourself, and give yourself a little more credit by way of sparing yourself from a lot of back and forth with yourself, as far as doubt is concerned, as far as second guessing yourself, and then these doubts become the doubts, your doubts about the world, and second guessing life, second guessing friends, second guessing the world. Um, and usually that doesn't really get us much closer to where we need to get, and therefore really create that breakthrough, because you earned uh, uh, enough in terms of being, I don't know if I should say rewarded, but acknowledged with your work, acknowledged with your work, uh, and this kind of material that that is becoming on the behalf of your direct engagement is as sweet as can be. And sharing, of course, is second to none in its importance. And even if you end up not sharing anything, but just that willingness in place, genuine, becoming genuine more and more every time that you kind of find yourself in the space of the trial of nature, and therefore the observation of nature, of your snappy movements, and what else, and short cycles of magic, and mini statements that are nothing less than brilliant. And and you really feel that you can live in peace with the drills. I used to have encounters with drills. When I say drills, I mean like that kind of the repetition type of thing. Once I used to hate myself for being in that cycle of repetition, 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 and then of course, quickly enough, I realized how incredible it is to be able to find yourself in the midst of repetition, repetition. Dr. John Sarno taught me about repetition, more of the same, that leads you to the ability to accept and to acknowledge and to understand and to implement and to apply uh, the 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 effect and the power of modifications, and how many faces this word has uh, residing in the back of it. Um, I always thought that modification would be like introducing new factors into the surface to blend with existing ones. Quickly enough, I realized that nothing needs to be introduced from nowhere to nothing, from nowhere to nowhere. But even though it's important invite, to invite, to invite that which you can invite from the outside in, and hoping that it can contribute, and hoping that you can contribute to it. But then I realized that the meaning of modifications that's forming within me in a natural fashion is more about rearranging and therefore reassuring, rearranging and therefore increasing that level of durability when it comes to mm, survival. Maybe it's too much of a big word, but survival. And maybe in addition to that, it would be just like kind of the magic of more of the same, engaging and hammering this issue that involves more of the sameness that's taking place on the surface, and then also by engaging to reveal the face of the others, you slowly but surely show more and more of your face to telegraph to the world, who you are and what you're all about. In the last, maybe I would say 2 weeks, I had encounters with certain surfaces that are took me all the way back to square one, all the way back to the ancient days of my super enthusiastically charged days, times, experiences of my uh, limited steps, meaningful though, limited and meticulously measured, and the fact that it really has a name, has a number, has a tag, has a subject matter, has has the right company, has a a a a enough material gathered for you to be to get the help that you need every time, and that you would know that that's the case because you would have to kind of ask for it less and less because everywhere you turn you realize that help is not only on the way, help is has arrived and help is available. And and what else can I say about the sometimes I realize that sometimes little tiny changes makes such a huge difference. Now let's just say that you're a young artist, that you can be old but a young artist because you just decided to become an artist. I love those cases and those scenarios with people that they just pick up the habit of painting. I love that with passion. I salute the people who make it their business. You just become something suddenly out of nowhere, as I did. I remember the early days. I was sitting in my apartment, completely happy with life, single, bachelor, whatever, just being wherever I was, doing whatever it is that I did, because I fully chose to do these things at those moments. It was just a sense of something that just stretches beyond the sense of liberation. You're always liberated. You always feel like you liberate yourself all over again. You don't even quite know liberation from what exactly. It was just liberation. It just sounds good. It feels good. And then, you think to yourself, wow, this is such an out of this world scenario that volunteers itself to be um to be the shape that we personally so much wanted to be in, and that shape is so effective when it comes to uh, 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 witnessing or experiencing an encounter that maybe just not too long ago would be something that you would be concerned about, maybe feeling threatened. But now all of a sudden it's just a privilege, it's an honor to feel that you are granted with this opportunity to spend some time amongst the greats. I have the privilege to know a few people, not more than a few, that in my book they're just the greats. They're great, and and then you don't even think have any second thoughts about anything because greatness is staring you in the face, and suddenly greatness is your friend, and suddenly greatness is concerned, and worries and feels like it's important for it to know where you stand, where your mind is at, what is it that you feel, what is it all about. And the most important thing is that, do you seek help when you need help? Do you seek help when you need help? And do you find yourself in life does not cease when okay, do you seek help when you need help? So when I first started, it was almost like a serious joke. That's exactly how I felt. What is it? 25, 26 years ago when I first encountered. And I share these stories with you is because a lot of people that I know are really, they really struggle. They really deep down inside them want to become artists without knowing that they don't have any talent supposedly to support this desire, or and even furthermore to do something about it. Like people would not just venture. One does not just venture to become an artist. Okay, I'm going to become an artist. Okay, it's not like most of those who want to become an artist. They don't think in terms of, well, if I want to become an artist and I'm not now, and suddenly I want to become, suddenly I will become. Then they will have a plan to go to either find a teacher or group to join or school or college, whatever, and really pick up all the one needs about art history and about the heritage of movements and about the relationship between the grades to the simplicity slash sophistication on the surface that they presented and they decided to send forth, and we have it at our disposal uh, and available to us to witness. There's no guessing here. You see it, you know it's great, even if you know nothing about it, especially if you know nothing about it, you know it's great. You're able of knowing about its greatness. So yeah, let's just say when I started, I didn't think anything about anything. I didn't think I was great or not great. On the contrary, I thought to myself, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And how am I going to snap out of it? How am I going to snap out of it? I don't see myself going to school. I don't see myself getting any teachers or any groups because I just didn't feel that this is the way for me. And but I have a good head. If I chose to go to college or to art school or whatever it is, I would have done very well. But I wanted to seek the immediacy of that engagement, the result of that the immediacy of the result of that engagement, so it can materialize itself quicker than my ability to have second thoughts and and set myself up for maybe prematurely quit the process and leave everything behind. That could have happened easily. Could have easily happened to me as much as it happened to so many others. So I was like, okay, what did I get myself into? And then that's someone that everyone needs to ask himself or herself. What is it that you can speak in the name of strength, methodic, uh, that can be all the way from religious to open spirited and scientific and social and artistic and whatnot, and and utilize that in ways that um, like when you saturate the surface, it can never tell you that it is thirsty. Um, um, when you saturate the surface, you guarantee a stretch of time to work and to create uninterrupted. Now, if you ever were engaged in that process of painting paintings with a brush and paint or with pens or crayons or sprayers or whatever it is that this technique and that technique, you would realize all about um, the one and the sameness that it has to offer, one and the sameness that it speaks for, one and the sameness of all the aspects of different feelings and different engagements that speak for the one thing that kind of, and it, it happens to be everything all together. It happens to be all the parts combined together. It happens to be all the elements together that actually not only make it happen, but inspire. And you hearing that from someone who I resent inspiration sometimes. It bores me. I'm bored. It, many times when I felt, and still now when I feel inspired, it means that I'm not myself. It means that something else is screening itself, filtering itself, scanning itself through me from within. That's not a good feeling for me, at least. Many people would kill for it. I respect it, and I respectfully allow it to just pass by and not bother to stop, because I just I need it, but I don't need it. I need it, but I don't want to have it, especially not from you. And I need it, and maybe soon enough, because it's inevitable. I will have it vis-a-vis the uh, level of conviction that I have, regardless of doubts, regardless of second thoughts, and regardless of unfamiliar head games that are taking place. Regardless, you know, I uh, I did a session early on, and in that session, I declared to myself all the things that are just about to happen and to happen frequently, and all the things that are just about to never happen. If you can help it, never ever again. And if it doesn't go your way 100%, then okay. So a couple out of 1,000 will slip in and speak for the world outside. Even though you want to keep a handle on the world outside, because you know that you in the present depend on it more than you think you do. But in the same token, um, might end up living with it for decades, and never finding yourself really taking advantage or using anything of it, unless you really need something. Like you need anything that you need, you go to the proper store and you have some cash, you go and you buy it, and you go home and you use it, and that's the end of that. But we're talking about nature volunteering its magic for your own sake. Nature not having any second thoughts about how it feels about you, and about your genuine attempt and desire to be a part of the process, the creative process. And and uh, and I remember that early on, let's say 2, 3, 4 years max into me facing canvases or any kind of other surfaces and creating works of art, and realizing that I'm actually getting better and better. But it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a surprise, even though I was surprised about just about any little or big thing and all the things combined that's taking place in my life when it comes to, oops, oh, I guess I'm an artist. How come? How so? Well, because I just decided that I am, and that's all there is to it. And yesterday I decided, and this morning I woke up and I felt like an artist, and I felt like this is the right feeling, and I felt that it belongs to me, and I felt that it's mine, and I felt that only whatever it is that you want to choose to say is the limit. And so, metaphorically speaking, we want to eliminate metaphors, because it plays into the hands of um, the modernistic approach to a straightforward community of people that are decent by nature. And here you are. You had to show up and stir things up. And so you're causing some to thank you forever, all their lives. And you facing some that say you can go to hell, and the sooner the better, because we don't need the likes of you here. Well, I'm making it sound a little too harsh, maybe harsher than it really is. That's why I need a sip of my Coke that I usually don't drink, because it calms me down and I can get my thoughts in order. Oh boy, oh boy. Terrible drink, but delicious. Especially if you don't drink it like I don't. And then you happen to end up with a bottle in your hand. So I approached hastily and I saw the background of your, the inner of your eye, i.e., my eye and your eye, that reflection. And I said to myself, when you speak of blessings, when you speak of thankfulness, this is what it's all about, right there, staring you in the face. Now, if you were to calculate the the promotional aspect of the portion of your investment in that process that's taking place on the behalf of all the things that you know or don't know, all the things that you're aware of and not aware of, you would arrive to a conclusion that actually you are not needed in the process unless you really want to do some hands on stuff that needs to, after all, in this mechanical, automated world that borderline almost doesn't need you at all, and maybe absolutely doesn't need you all. It's just you don't know that you're not needed any longer. But you have something unique in your hands that you can make it available. And that's something unique. You're better off not knowing about its nature. Because once you get to know about its nature, you would realize you have no tools to decipher or to make sense of anything. And you were much better off not knowing of its existence, and even more so knowing about the nature of it and what it's all about, and why should or shouldn't you worry about it, and should you keep it or not, should you use it or not, should you benefit from what it has to offer to you or not, should you accept its love or not, and so much more. So the pressure is actually now between, it's like medium plus, it's like close to the fourth quarter, um, chewing through the last stages of the third quarter, and that's a lot, by the way. That's a lot, not only in sports, it's a lot in life, and and you realize that it's taking place without you hanging on to anything, and that, if anything, gives you a boost of self-esteem, self assurance, um, um, self recognition, self value, self worth, um, self awareness. And because you are a thoughtful individual, because that's a given, that's the group that I'm talking about, that's who we are. Born like that or not, regardless. No one is interested in knowing this or that. But it's staring you in the face. Even though it can take, once it makes its presence known, it doesn't really need us. And it can easily, and probably it is telling us, it's just that we don't hear, we don't notice. It's telling you, I got it. I got it, baby. You did good so far. Go. Take off. Take a break. Whatever. You're not fired. You can come. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 months. It's okay. Acknowledging your investment, thanking you for it, and giving you a little bonus, and saying indulge, and saying don't worry too much. You'll get your job back when you are done with your trip. We won't even ask you to tell us about how it was unless you want to volunteer. And we might say to you, well, good for you, but we're not interested. But not because we're not happy for you and we don't realize the greatness of that experience. It's because Why should we care if we care so much already? Doesn't make sense. Why should we care if we care so much already? There's no need to care if you already care, like the utmost level of care. And and you face the scenario where you got to make some decisions because now things happen fast. And now you realize that no matter how lucky you are or miserably unlucky, as far as where you stand, as far as recognition, as far as talent, as far as far as proximity to greatness, as far as the aspect of so much worthy human materials that is just begging of you to understand it, to acknowledge it, to accept it. And and a lot of women, a lot of mothers, a lot of wives, a lot of husbands for that sake, they're aware of that. They're aware of the circulation of what's the word? Um, yeah. So I, lucky for me, I didn't have to set the table when that happened because the table was always set because that's the way I like things. It doesn't matter what engagement I had with, before painting paintings. I was always a drummer, so I played drums, and it was all about rhythm and all about everyone depends on you because if you're a good drummer, this band is going to benefit. This band is guaranteed to succeed. We need someone who knows his business. We need you to be able to count accurately, precisely. We need you to understand the nature of accents. Accents. Tell me, what is accent? Ta 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 ka ta 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 ka ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ta ka ta ta ka ta 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 tan tan ta 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 ta. You know the language. Ta ta pam pam pa da pa. Ta ka ta ka ta 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 ka ta ka ta ta ka ta ta ka ta ka ta ka ta. Ta ka ta ka ta ka ta ta ka ta 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 ka ta ta ta. And it just sits there in front of you. And the immediacy of that level of naivete and maybe being adamant about not only what is it that you have at your disposal, but what kind of use you're going to put it into what kind of use. Is it because that one lousy piece of meat that is right in the center. It happens to be delicious, but you know that this piece is not enough to feed one person to satisfaction. So then the whole group decides what? To do away with it. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it to have an ounce of meat and think that about 2 dozen people will happily share it and say, wow. No, this is not happening. This is just simply not happening. It doesn't make sense in that sense. But anyway, so my table was all set. Why? Because the nature of my attitude prior to discovering that and by the way, I discovered suddenly that I'm an artist. And I started creating, and then every day that went by, I even felt surprised. I even said, what is going on here? So, fine. Yeah. Those who join the group, most of them, they come barefooted. Okay, it's just that they forgot that it's still nevertheless about 3 to 5 miles walk on the highway with debris on the floor. So if you arrive to your destination happily with one cut on your foot, you're doomed. You can't enjoy the show. You can't appreciate anything because it just took you hostage. It took you hostage of that situation where you keep on telling yourself that you're worthy of it and that you're worthy of having the opportunity to to test and to and set yourself up to be a candidate. Oh, I love this word, candidate. the possibility, the probability, the acceptability, and so many things with ability, ility, pility, kility. So I gathered my thoughts quickly enough, and it was like actually a a great joy to find that. Okay, enough is enough. Um, so I didn't have to deal with something that most people that decided to become creative individuals, artistic individuals. When, in my case, it would be like painting paintings, equally and evenly to my desires and to my ability and to my level of conviction to take part in this process, but still they fail. They can't even sort through the debris to deal with ABC and 1, 2, 3 and bring it together and say, wow, okay, we got it. Why? Because we want to learn from it and accept it as the truth and as the accurate information, and therefore spare yourself from a lot of hassle. And that hassle is pure energy draining factors that will eat you alive. And it's not going to be, well, it's going to be casual, it's going to be gradual, and it's going to be an evolutionary process. But on the surface, it doesn't interpret itself to be such. It will be just a death blow. I'm exaggerating by saying death, but it's going to be a one little papam chop, and you're out of commission for a long time, maybe for a lifetime. You'll be functioning, but you won't be what it is that you just desired to be a minute ago. And it happens to be big, big, big stuff. And it happens to be you were the one to be chosen to lead the world. You'll be number two. How about that? That's not too bad, huh? And you can make a difference. You can make it different. You can make whole neighborhoods, whole villages, whole cities, whole countries to say, what a person. Look at him. So casual, yet so profound. So scattered all over the place, yet so focused. And so many of these kind of opposites and two extremes comes, rises a wonderful individual. It happens to be you. So I stood in front of the canvas and I said to myself, am I supposed to start a conversation with this surface here? Am I going to start a scenario where we're going to have a chat here? And I'm going to take advantage of this time and this communication and this potential coming together and interacting and tell my story and say, well, first, let me announce to you that I am a no BS guy. I'm going right into the uh, dead center of it, and I'm going to produce some results. What results? Don't worry about it. It's going to come. It's going to come with the title, with the purpose, with the direction, with the nature, with the setup, with everything. Why? Because I'm experienced. I've been there at least once. That's only actually I learned after the fact that that's how funny it is. It's only once that you're qualified. Once. And before you enter that kind of madness, supposedly, you said if you don't have a dozen encounters that are fully successful, you are not even considered, not even remotely as anything. So that means you're considered to be maybe just exactly nothing. Show me one person in the world that's being considered as pretty much nothing. Who is this person? He is nothing. He doesn't really exist. And you allow yourself to find a way to make yourself feel good about yourself. Just like I told my son the other day. I told him, listen, um, all I do with you guys is lead by example. Instead of, yeah, well, I can say it, this is not good, this is good, take your time, watch your mouth, watch your this, look where you're going, look right and left, be aware of your immediate vicinity, be aware of your immediate vicinity. See what it is that wasn't there a minute ago, and see what it is that is here that wasn't there a minute ago. Be aware. The world is as good as it is, and as generous and beautiful and genuine as it is. It's a dangerous place to live in. And all you need to do is just remember it once. There's no obsession here or repetition. The only repetition would be is that you accept it and you keep on repeating how happy you are that you understanding it in such a way. Leading by example, correct? So you go to your son or to your daughter, your children. You never. If you lead by example, you don't need to talk about it because it's just not going to get anywhere. It might even ruin things. You don't need to state the obvious, especially if you have a lot to say. I'm an artist, whether I paint every day or paint once a year. Why? Because I lead by example. Because even though you would think, well, this guy hasn't been to his studio in 3 months, and suddenly this artist comes to you and say, "Hey, you have an hour? Come join me join me in my studio. See what I've been up to." And you know that this individual hasn't been to his studio in a year. And you say, that's peculiar. Okay, well, I would love to see. You say, of course, would love to. You're going to the studio with that individual that invited you, hasn't been there a year, and him saying, let me show you some of my work. And then you're shocked because you really, even by smell, you really realize that this studio was never abandoned. Like the world that depends on art and artists was never abandoned. And and you say, how come the world was never abandoned if it was ignored systematically for the longest time? So much so that we started becoming concerned about how long it can still go on like this and survive and exist. But then you open the door and you come in and you say, God is great. Look at this. You don't even say, look at this. You smell. The smell tells you the story of activity and action, of worthwhileness and being worthy. I mean, that process, being worthy of mentioning, being worthy of appreciating and respecting. And they're all talking about you because they speak of the process. Obviously, you were responsible for this process. They speak of this art and creation. Obviously, it's all about you. You did it. If you weren't there to do it, they won't be able to speak about nothing. Well, yeah, people can speak about nothingness in a very meaningful way. I admit that. But we're talking about normalcy now, okay? So when it hits you in the face, you don't feel the pain because you don't feel your face. It's almost like a fixed fixture that happens to have some features that resemble a human being, a face, a human face. But then it evaporates into the thin air long before there's any contact. So if there is any movement or motion towards you, like a tsunami, like a wave, like a group of trains, like whatever it is, silent or noisy, it's already you're already falling apart just by the thought itself that a collision, an imminent collision is just about to take place. You know, my early stages, it's almost like the angels showed their faces in my immediate vicinity, in my space, and said, "Just give me your hand once, once." And that's just what I automatically did. And guess what? I don't even remember. I'm sure it was a snappy boom, 1, 2, 3, not even 1, 2, 3. It was like done. And And the beauty for real is that you never have to know, or it's not a condition for growth, and it's not a condition for creativity and continuity, because in other levels of existence and scenarios, the most little bit of that which is miniaturic and and smallish, smaller than the smallest thing, and the smallest quantity of the smallest quantity possible ever, that will take you in an uninterrupted stretch of 1,000 years, and you will happen to be alive during these 1,000 years. And and then this whole idea of answers and questions will be floating, I don't know, freely and uninterruptedly. And you will reminisce when you will be sitting on the chair, the crown chair, and wearing the crown itself, even though you wouldn't like the idea of having the crown on your head. But you know what? You've earned it. It's important. You leave it on. And all you want to do is to keep and to continue being normal in the face of the formation of sophistication and godliness. Is that wonderful or what? You want to keep on being normal in the face of that greatness forming itself relentlessly. So people can say, what the friggin' heck is he talking about? And you're you're right to do so and to think so. But if you can adapt the power that presents itself to you, usually it must be aggressive a little bit, but it won't bother you, not in a bit. To realize that actually this is the reflection of you accepting early on the benefits and beauty of this magic, or this something out of nothing, this abruptly coming to life scenario that can withstand any blow and always be there as your friendly servant with so much love. You wouldn't even know where to begin to relate to it and to acknowledge it. But deep down inside you, it will bring you happiness. And art is all about happiness. When you're happy about something that you have just created, and of course, therefore, you're willing to accept it as a matter of fact, then you know your art is as good as your feelings about this love appearing out of nowhere, so to speak, and bringing nothing but tremendous amount of joy into your life. And that's what I wish for you all out there, deciding or not deciding to become artists, this and that, regardless. I'm wishing you that kind of out of nowhereness, meaningfulness shows a kind face. It happens to choose you to join the right, and that's a wonderful thing. We're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here today, August 2nd, year 2023, and Wednesday afternoon, here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi. Don't miss out the wonderful group art shows that we have here on a monthly basis. And this is, for this month of August, we have the opening, mark your calendars, Saturday, August 12th from 4 to 7. And we are located at 75 Industrial Road in Wainscott, New York. And this is literally parallel to the runway of East Hampton Airport. The participating artist for this session is um, um, Dennis Lawrence, Aurelio Torres, Eric Ernst, Michael McDowell, Steve Ram, Jody Gambino, John Pomanovsky, and Chris Leclerc, and your humble service, Haim Mizrahi. Keep up the good spirits. And of course, we're going to be here tomorrow, as we were here yesterday, and as we're here this morning, Wednesday afternoon, August 2nd, year 2023, here at the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi. Much love.